Happy holidays! I'm Blythe Stephens of A Blythe Coach, dance education and coaching to move through life with balance, grace, and power. I got my ugly Christmas sweater on, bringing you a winter solstice and festive holiday practice today. And for that reason, I wanted to start and end with a poem today, as it really sets the mood for me for this time of year, the return of the light here in the Northern Hemisphere, and all the festivity around various holidays that we're looking forward to, as well as the good and the bad of the past year and the promise of the coming year. This poem is called Solstice by Diane Lee Moomey. Again did the earth shift. Again did the nights grow short and the days long. And the people of the earth were glad and celebrated, each in their own ways. Please find a comfortable seat, either our easy Sukhasana pose or a kneeling pose, whatever is more comfortable and relaxing for you. What we're looking for is a sense of groundedness in the seat, rooting down through both sit bones into the surface below, into a block like I'm sitting on, or a cushion, or onto the yoga mat or floor. And then creating a nice stable triangle of support beneath us. The hands can rest palms down onto the knees or palms up for a more receptive shape. Perhaps like me, you'd like to roll the shoulders back, dropping the shoulder blades down so they're hanging from the skeleton. And then the head and the spine are floating up, reaching up from that grounded place to the extent that we can. Also a couple of neck circles, head circles here, very gently exploring. Might help us find that sense of upright alertness while we soften the gaze or close the eyes and bring the attention to the breath. At first, just noticing the natural flow of the breath in and out through the nose. And then slowly deepening and relaxing into that breath. Noticing the way breathing affects the posture, a little bit like a wave, rising and falling, sinking and extending. Maybe there's a little bit of a sway to it. And this is connected to my personal theme for the day, which has to do with silver bells and jingle bells and things which pendulums that swing, sometimes bringing sweet music, equalizing, balancing, all of these sorts of concepts filtering into our practice today. And in service to that, let's embody that flow of the breath, that swing in and out, by adding an arm movement to the breath, arms coming over the side, rising up to the top with our next inhalation. And we can stretch long there. And as we exhale, we'll slowly sink the arms in the rhythm of the breath. So that might be a little bit faster for you. It might be a little bit slower. And that's the beauty of an at-home personal practice, is you can take it at the appropriate rhythm, for your body, for the day that you're having, for the season of life. Please don't feel pressured to do anything at the same speed or in exactly the same way as I do it. Instead, I encourage you to take a position of inquiry, finding what works best for you, your body, your situation, your timing. So that said, with the next inhale, we'll bring the arms again up to the top. And this time as we exhale, we'll just take a gentle twist to the left. Right hand will come to the left thigh and gazing over the left shoulder gently at first, not forcing or pressing too hard, just becoming aware of the length through the spine on the inhale and then rotating around that axis into a gentle twist, assisting with the hands. One more time each side. And then when you're complete with those breath cycles, we'll bring the hands back down onto the knees, resting there for a moment, meeting back up in our relaxed seat. And then we'll take that expression, that physical expression of the breath, into some seated cat-cow. So as I inhale now, I'll lift my chest, opening in the belly, gazing up or lifting the face to the sky, rocking forward on my sit bones, rotating the pelvis for the cow shape, and then sinking back through space, starting with the center of the body, the belly button, and the head and the tail curling forward. In your own pace, inhaling forward and exhaling back. Once more like this in our cat-cow. Then we'll move into some spiral shapes, starting in the same way with the belly and the chest leading forward, the shoulders, head, and tail drawing back. And then we'll spiral the rib cage in the center to the right and back and left and forward, or establish one direction. It's not important which way you're rotating. We just want to do it approximately an equal number of revolutions each direction. So we're sinking back, rolling through, and coming forward. A bit like we're taking the clapper of the bell and swirling it inside of a large bell space. Or if you prefer some Christmas baking imagery, like we've got one of those rubber or silicone spatulas and we're scraping out every last bit of the batter from the inside of our bowl. And then we'll reverse that direction of the spiral whenever you're ready. So for me, that means I'm scooping to the left and then back and then right and forward. I've got some tightness I'm noticing in the lower back, probably connected to teaching ballet yesterday and the way I've slept. But that's fine, whatever it is for you, or just noticing that and then easing through the movement, attending to the body, caring for ourselves. Like an instrument, like that bell. Sometimes it gets a little bit out of use or overused or tarnished, and we want to polish it up, take care of it so it can ring out again. Nice. So I haven't been counting these. It's hard to be sure if we've done an equal number, but when we feel evened out, when those circles are fairly even, or starting to feel a little warmth generating through the center of the body, that's good. Then we'll bring those spirals to stillness. Simply being aware of the state of the body as our practice unfolds. And then here, our last seated exercise for now, we'll raise our arms up over the head with the inhale, and then bring the left hand to the floor and stretch long through the side. And then we can press with that left hand into the floor, floating both arms back up, and bring out to the other side. Very long through both sides of the rib cage as we move into this side stretch, weighted and grounded through the pelvis. Long through the spine, always long before we go into a bend, whether it be to the side or to the front or to the back, in any direction. We want to create that axial extension or space in the spine before we dive deep into a bend. And we always want to approach with awareness and caution and care. All right, taking some circles in the hands, the elbows, whatever movement seems called for at this stage in your practice. And I'm transitioning my block out of the way, and we'll come to all fours, turning to face one side of the mat, becoming very aware of, again, the surface below us supporting us. So rather than distributing the weight over the seat and legs, now we're looking at the palms of the hands and the fingers spread wide across the floor underneath the shoulder joints, the knees under the hip joints, and the tops of the feet, all of the toes and the tops of the arches. Also distributing weight, pressing down into the floor for a sturdy foundation. And here, again, we'll take cat-cow. In this new position, perhaps it feels a little bit different. Drawing head and tail together, belly button to the spine for our cat, and cow, drawing head and tail up to the sky. We might even feel those sit bones reaching wide on a diagonal in opposite direction. So up and wide, and then we'll bring them together and underneath in our cat. And we want that same sense of the sit bones reaching up and wide, the tail lifting when we go into our downward dog in a few moments. But first, let's take some of those wild spirally cat-cows here in all fours. I'll actually bring my feet together, the knees a little wider, or you can keep them under the hips. You can even put some cushioning under the knees if that feels better. But for my hips to warm up, shoulders and spine, in my body, this feels really good. So find the variation of a spiraling cat-cow or a normal forward and backward cat-cow for yourself today. Keeping in mind, you're always invited to rest in child's pose if that's the better choice for you on any given moment. It's a personal practice, so it can be comprised only of child's pose if that's what you're feeling today. And for me, sometimes that is the case. Just sitting back onto the heels, curling into a little ball and breathing sometimes is the healthiest thing I could do for myself. And then we'll reverse that spiral direction as well. Exhaling back into a small shape, inhaling forward into an open shape. We're breathing primarily through the nose, but of course you can always sigh or as needed, breathing how we like. And then let's go ahead and practice that child's pose since I mentioned it. Knees can stay wide out to the sides of the mat or come together, whatever's more comfortable for you. And the arms also have options either to reach long in front of you or to draw to the right and left of our rib cage as the head falls down towards the floor and the tail also falls down towards the floor, shoulder blades sinking off the back body towards the floor. Really bring our attention to the way the breath changes the shape as we inhale like a balloon, filling the body, belly pressing into the thighs, rising up, and exhale, falling, sinking, and releasing. Then slowly rolling up through the spine to a kneeling shape. And we'll walk out to a plank. So we have several options with this plank series today that I'd like to show you first, so then you don't have to turn your head and look as you're going through the practice. So our plank possibilities, variations, which you may like to try, include the backs or the tops of the feet on the floor, as well as the knees, and creating a line from the knees through the pelvis, shoulders, and head in this plank. Another option would be to tuck the toes under the back if you prefer that. And yet another, if the wrists are bothered or if you'd prefer, we can also create this plank on the forearms, attending to the line between head, rib cage, and pelvis. Yes, all of these are a good amount of work for the core. Lifting the belly up towards the spine will help. And then the other variations would be to pull the knees up off the ground, either here in a lower plank pose or in a high plank. So take your proper variation of that first plank position, and we'll breathe there dynamically through the nose. Again, noticing how inhaling floats us up, and exhaling, we're maintaining that lift, but sensing the weight. Okay, so then we're going to do a little pendulum, like I said, like a bell back and forth through this shape. One variation being to bring your knee down like I have done. I brought my right knee to the floor, and then I'll rotate that right foot out towards the outer edge of my mat and come onto the side. So my left foot is still flat. I'm pressing my knife edge, that outer edge of the foot, into the floor, really pressing up and away out of that right hand. And here is my first side plank variation. So I can go through here and then bring the hand back to the floor, reposition the knees, come through all fours or a plank. You can also do a one-legged all fours as a variation. And then we'll roll to the other side. On the knee version, I'll rotate my left foot out towards the outer edge of my mat, open the belly, the chest to the side, and that's a nice variation to start with or to continue with as long as you like. All of these are perfectly beautiful, legitimate, beneficial poses. Another version, so continue back and forth through the center to side plank in that way, or if you want to try it, the next variation would be to rotate onto the outside edge of one foot inside of the other. So they're in one line, And I'm rotating through my side plank there. And then I'll just roll onto the balls of the feet as I come through the center and rotate to the other side. That feels pretty good. Pressing the hips up towards the sky, feeling support underneath that lower ribs may help. Of course, breathing. And continue or rest. And I'll show just one more variation of this shape, which might be fun if you have considerable experience and strength in this area, which would be to stack the feet. And then if you want to, you can take one leg up into the air. Totally optional, just a fun balance practice. Rolling through the center. And stacking the feet on the other side, finding that hand directly underneath the shoulder. And maybe lifting that leg. Oh, we are good and warm now, I think. Gonna sit back onto the feet for a quick pause in child's pose. Neutralizing the spine, calming the breath. And I'm getting a little warm, so we'll remove this festive sweater that I've got on today. And then continue our practice. Let's shake it out, silver bells. I'm going to come through all fours, cross my legs and sit back, or roll to one side and sit back. And then slowly roll down through the spine. We won't be resting here too long, but we'll slowly roll through the spine, reaching the hands forward or grabbing, supporting behind the thighs or behind the legs, rolling as slowly down as we can. That was not so slow on my part. Like I said, I'm finding some stiffness in the lower back, so sometimes releasing to gravity is the best thing we can do. Centering ourselves on the mat, we'll extend the legs forward with a slight bend. And using the heels as a sort of fulcrum, we'll flex and release the feet and try to use that heel grip onto the mat or onto the floor to create a wave through the body. We're sort of wiggling and jiggling ourselves. So this is like a little bell, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. And it's shifting the position of my legs, rocking my pelvis back and forth on the floor, maybe massaging the seat. It's moving through my spine, rocking my shoulders on the ground. And if I can really get the energy flowing, then also my head sort of nodding. Great way to release some built up tension and stress. Also working my lower body. I can feel the legs lighting up. The hamstrings are working gently. We'll heel rock here, somatic work. And then bring that rock into stillness. Release the outward expression of that wave or that bell is calmed. We still feel the energy flowing. Like a bell that has rung, the vibrations continue to resonate through the bell and through the air long after the sound has faded. And then we'll bring one leg up and the other leg up underneath the hips for a little bridge practice. So first of all, I want to do a small stretch, and then you can incorporate that stretch as well into the bridge if you want to. So always an option. This is our figure 4 stretch, or our keyhole stretch, where we'll take the right leg up and then right ankle to the top of the left thigh, actually near the knee. Seeking to have our pelvis neutral here, so not letting that right leg drag us off to the side, but keeping equal pressure on the right and left sides of the pelvis, keeping that parallel left thigh here, and just pressing the right thigh gently away. We could do this energetically, or you could use the hand to do that to create a gentle stretch. Both shoulders falling down onto the floor, neck and head relaxed. Then to deepen the stretch, we can reach the right leg through the keyhole, right hand through the keyhole, left hand through the outside, and interlace the fingers either behind the thigh with this left leg still bent, or if it feels better, you can extend it. Or also, if it feels fine for you, you can also interlace them over the lower leg. So dancer's choice, yogi's choice, which form of this stretch you prefer. And then you can stay here relatively still and calm. Or if you want, you can take some gentle swipes or ring your bell a little bit to the left and to the right. Just to slightly adjust that stretch. And then remain there and enjoy this stretch, or we'll bring it into a dynamic version, placing that left foot back on the floor in front of the left hip, hands at the sides, and rolling up through the spine, pelvis first into a bridge shape, and then down onto the floor. One vertebra at a time. So here it's helpful for me to imagine that my vertebrae are little stamps or big stamps, and that we're making an impression with each one onto the floor as we return to the ground. Of course, we can also take this bridge with both feet on the ground. That's also a wonderful choice. So we have a stretch and a bridge, or we have a bridge, which may be a stretch for you too, but is, yes, more spinal articulation and core and leg work and less of a hip opener in this variation. Whatever version you've taken, you'll do one more roll through bridge or continue to breathe through your stretch. And then we'll check out the other side. So reaching the left leg up to the ceiling, that's correct. And the left ankle coming over that right thigh above the knee. Squaring off the hips at first, just breathing here and pressing that left thigh gently away. Then if you're taking that keyhole stretch, we'll thread the left hand through, either interlacing the hands behind the right thigh or the right shin. Again, you can keep that right leg extended or bent. And find the calm breath and stillness, or again, swipe that leg gently side to side across the body, or plant the right foot down and take this stretch and one-legged bridge, or come to a normal two-footed bridge flow. I'm going to do a couple with that one-legged variation and then switch over to both feet. Maybe you are stretching throughout. Maybe you're taking your two-footed bridge, rolling the shoulders under, exploring some movement through the spine and maybe through the hips. Last one, wherever you may be. Then return both soles of the feet to the floor. A bent knee neutral position for one breath cycle. Then we'll hug both knees into the chest. You can even hug the head up too, just curling into a little ball like our child's pose, but reclining. And then release the hand side to side. And we'll take another little swing, this time like a duck's tail in the water, swinging back and forth, or like a very happy dog's tail. We're swinging the feet and therefore the legs side to side. Knees will stay together. And this is going to massage the back of the pelvis and the hips and the seat on the floor, and then also ripple through the spine and maybe eventually be causing a no with the head, swinging side to side. Shaking nice and free, like water off a duck's back. And then this movement we will also bring back to external stillness, but sense that there's still waves of energy and the fluidity of the body. Swaying side to side. Now we'll reach our arms out like a T and take that side to side motion with a 90-degree angle on the legs. I'm doing a little foot circle first because it just feels good to twist and untwist those feet, release some of the foot joints. If you're a dancer or athlete, you know what I mean. Feet could use a little break too. But then we'll bring that to a 90-degree angle through the knees and bring our knees to the right side just a little bit. We won't drop them all the way to the floor yet, just bring them a little bit to the right and then through the center with our exhale. Inhaling to bring them a little bit to the left. And then exhale, drawing the belly to the spine, to the floor, through the center. Now you can keep that, it was about 45-degree angle on each side, or go as deeply as you like into the twist. Inhaling across, exhaling back through the center. Getting a nice sense of twisting and stretching, but also control and awareness and strength through the center. Last one each side. Very good. Let's shake those feet and legs out again. Just a little shake out. Nice and loose and free. And then we'll start a gentle rocking forward and back motion. So now we'll ring the bell back and forward. Depending on the state of your back and the state of your floor, maybe you start to rock back and forth a little bit bigger. Maybe not. Maybe it's a small, gentle movement for you today, rolling through the spine very subtly. Or maybe it's a little bit bigger and freer. No matter. And we're kind of floating up into a boat if we can. Of course, the feet can come down to the floor as well, but let's see if we can hover here at the top of our swing. However many more you want to do. I'm going to do one more. And hover here in my boat. And then cross the legs over and come back to all fours. Or you can roll over the side and come to all fours. Yogi's choice. Take a little sip of your water or your coffee, and we'll come. Take a little sip of your water or your coffee, and then we'll come back to all fours, briefly neutralizing here, sensing length through the crown of the head and the tail, then tucking the toes under and sending those hips up into the back. Here's where we want to sense the sit bones widely reaching up to the sky and then out in opposite directions. If you even want to turn and pigeon toe the toes in a little bit here to get that sense of width across the pelvis, great. And also through the shoulders. So there's a soft bend in the elbows, feeling width across the clavicles, across the shoulder blades, width and length through the whole torso. And then whatever massaging, treading through the feet, shifting back and forth you want to do to stretch the hips and the legs, and the whole support system is also super welcome and encouraged. Looking at my Christmas light socks here, my gaze goes back between the feet. And I might want to shake my head no and yes here. Releasing neck and shoulder tension wherever possible. And then I'll look between the hands and slowly take step by step, little steps to stretch the back of the legs, bending through the knee, walking the hands right up, or the feet right up between the hands towards the front of my mat and hanging here like a rag doll. Solid, supported through the soles of the feet and the toes reaching long. Really loosey-goosey, swingy, shaky through the upper body. So hands can just fall down towards the ground or interlace the hand opposite elbow and swing here for this variation of ragdoll, forward and back, side to side circles, whatever works for you. Then we'll inhale and lift into a flat back or a figure 7 with length from head to tail, supporting with your hands as you like on the legs, and exhale to forward fold. Then inhale, rolling all the way up to the standing, arms coming along the side, and then reaching long above the head. Bring the hands, the palms together in our Anjali Mudra before the heart. For a moment, just sensing the stability of this standing shape and the rhythm of your own breath internally. Then with a soft bend in the knees, we'll reach arms over the side and above again. Exhale, forward fold. A little sun salutation with a halfway lift. Inhale, exhale, forward fold, placing the hands right and left of the feet. 2 steps back into your favorite plank pose. And then lowering down either through chaturanga, where the elbows scrape along the sides of the ribs, or knees, chest, and chin come down to the ground. We still have our little grasshopper leg arms on the side, and then slowly sinking everything flat. Belly down to the floor, tops of the feet connecting with the floor, and hands under the shoulders. Little inhale to a cobra. Exhale, returning to the floor, tucking the toes under. Inhale through the knees and all fours, or through chaturanga or a push-up position. Reverse chaturanga, then sending the hips up and back. adjusting the width of your downward dog as you like it, as you require. And then sinking in with the hands and the feet, floating up with the pelvis, hanging loose with the head. And once again, looking between the hands and taking those small steps. Maybe we can even go heel, ball, toe for more stretch through the back of the leg. If you'd prefer, you can always hop or spring or float to the front of the mat as well. Into our forward fold, halfway lift with the inhale. Exhale, forward fold. Next inhale brings us all the way up to the top. Hands meeting at the heart center. Next variation of our sun salutation, we'll bring the arms over the side and up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, sinking deep, hands right and left of the feet. 2 steps or hop back to our plank. Knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga. Or come directly to downward facing dog. You don't have to flow through all of these. I'm going to bring it to a upward facing dog from my cobra now, but you can stick with that cobra. And then downward facing dog. This time we're going to come to 3-legged dog, equal weight on both hands and also on the left foot, sending the right leg long, hips staying parallel, so maybe not as high as I could if I open the hips, but a pretty nice shape. And then I'll bring the nose to the knee to the nose, stepping forward next to the right hand, rotating on that back foot flat to roll up to warrior 1. And breathing through the nose, but we can sigh and groan and pant and whatever sounds we want to vocalize is great too. Then we'll softly rain those hands back down to the floor, rotate on the back foot, and take a vinyasa flow or meet me directly in downward facing dog. And we'll return the favor on the left. Equal weight on both hands as much as we can on the right foot and the left leg sending long to the back. And knee to nose coming forward into a little ball before that left foot steps forward, rotating flat on the right leg, rolling up, seeking to square those hips off to the front. Doesn't need to be any kind of perfect shape, but we're clear about the form of warrior 1, legs parallel, chest facing that front knee, knee reaching over the middle toe, and then softly raining down with the hands again, rotating on that back foot, coming through a chaturanga flow, or pressing back into downward facing dog, or always keeping that child's pose resting place in mind for a more restorative practice. And we're back in downward facing dog. Bringing the gaze between the hands at the front of the mat and then slowly walking or more quickly springing from bent knees in between the hands. Inhale to a halfway lift, exhale forward fold, inhale rolling up. And hands meeting at the heart center. We're going to take just one more version of our sun salutation and take it into another flow. Okay. This time as we inhale the arms, I'm going to bring them forward into a chair position. Maybe you want to bring those big toes to touch and heels a little bit apart. Squeezing the knees together into our chair. And exhale forward, fold, laying the belly onto the thighs. And then halfway lift, stepping or jumping back to our plank through a flow. And then pressing up into downward facing dog. Floating that right leg up, this time opening the hip. Yay! Equal weight on both hands, but letting that hip swing open. Maybe opening and closing it, if that feels good. Bending the right leg and circling a couple times. One direction. Massaging that hip joint. And then also circling the knee and the leg the other direction. Before extending it once more long. And then drawing the knee in towards the chest. To step forward, rotating on the back foot. We're going to roll up to warrior one momentarily. And then opening to the side into warrior two. I'm going to widen my stance a little bit. Finding approximately a 90-degree angle at my front leg. 5 parallel to the ground would be great, but is not necessary. But my knee is definitely pressing towards that middle toe or even the little toe, not falling in. And the outside edge of my left foot also strongly planting down. Cool. And then I'm looking for a more or less straight line through my spine, not too far forward or back. Pretty much level with the hips and through the back. And then I can reach my arms forward and back and gaze over that right fingers. And warrior two. Here comes a little flow. We'll inhale, reaching the left hand lightly onto the thigh, opening into our reclining warrior and circling that arm. And forward. Exhaling into a side angle pose and circling that arm. One more time, inhaling, lifting, and coming forward. And swirling. Then coming back to our neutral warrior two. And stretching that front leg. Let's bring the arms up and sinking. Bringing them down. Twice more, inhaling up. Stretching both legs long. Exhaling. Sinking deep. Last one, inhaling. Exhaling. Then bringing right and left hand back towards the floor, rotating on that back leg, and go through a chaturanga flow or meet directly in downward facing dog. Yogi's choice. And we'll take that sequence on the other side once we've met in downward dog. Establish that strong position. We'll send the left leg long to the back and open the hip. Stable through both arms, soft bend in the elbows, not hyperextending or locking out any of the joints. And then we'll take a couple circles of that bent, lifted leg in one direction. Ooh, that feels good on the hip. And then also in the other direction. Some ballet rond de jambe. Then reaching it back up into the sky, last chance.
Then that knee drawing in and forward to the front of the mat towards the nose and towards the left hand. You can always bring that leg forward with your hand if it doesn't want to step there on its own. And come flat on the back foot, rolling up through the spine to warrior one. Checking in with that shape. And then opening to warrior two. Now I'm looking away from you, but you should still be able to hear. And I'm checking in with that front knee, that it is right in the center of the ankle and foot. Solid architecture there, and the outside edge of my right foot, and the whole right foot is pressing down, strongly grounding through both legs, finding a pretty neutral pelvis in the center, and reaching the arms front and back. Then I can turn my head to gaze over that front left hand, as if I'm peering through a telescope into the distance. Inhaling up and back. Exhaling down, long and forward. Arm circle is optional. It feels nice on my shoulder and a little bit more dancey, but you can keep it simple and elegant if you like. Then we'll return to the center, inhaling to extend through that front leg, especially pressing down through that front heel. And exhaling to sink deeply into our warrior two lunge. Twice more inhaling to rise. Exhaling to sink. And rolling, spinning back down, both hands to the floor, rotating on that back foot, stepping back. Last chance for a chaturanga flow here if you want to take it. Or just go directly to downward facing dog, of course, or child's pose. Let's all softly lower the knees down onto the ground now for our child's pose. Resting, letting all the benefits of our practice so far sink in. And then slowly rolling up through the spine to kneel. There are so many other pendulum swinging bell-like movements that I'm really excited to share with you in dynamic practices in the future. But for time's sake, we are going to move into a reclining stretch in Shavasana. So crossing the legs and sinking back, or rolling onto one side and sinking back. We're going to return to our back, so fully reclining, either slowly rolling down or in another gentle way, sinking back onto the back, drawing the knees to the chest, checking in. We can draw those knees into a circle, massaging the hips on the ground. And then set the left leg long on the ground, the right leg is at a bend towards the chest. And we'll pretend as if we're standing on that left foot. So it is flexed and flat on our ground, and we'll keep that hip parallel. And rotate the right leg only. So we've got a solid foundation on the left side, And the right side's a little bit free. Then we'll extend the right leg and reach behind the thigh, the calf, or the foot, whatever's appropriate for you. And then allow it to sink in over the course of a couple breaths. Inhaling long. Exhaling, sinking in. Gravity is helping us here. We don't have to push or force. Just breathe. I feel a little tremble and shake. That's all good. Then bringing the right ankle or foot or thigh into the right hand. My left hand's pressing into that left hip to remind it to stay in place as my right leg gently swings open to the side, stretching a little bit more of that inner thigh and leg, although you certainly might feel it other places on the body, and that's cool. As long as it's not painful, we'll float through the center and then softly cross the body, keeping both hips on the floor, stretching more the outer side of that right thigh. Our legs are feeling a gentle stretch. And we'll bend the right top leg and draw it across the body. Maybe shift the hips a little bit to the right first into a twist. Our last twist of the practice. Sinking in. Both shoulders heavy on the floor. Right leg, right arm out like a wing. Right leg falling across towards the ground. And slowly rolling back to the center and bringing the hips to the middle again. Both legs bent. Then sending the right leg long on the ground, flexed and parallel as if we're standing onto it. We're ready to balance there. Keeping stability along the whole right side. Circling the left knee. And then extending the left leg above us. Hearing the music of my knees. Speaking of music, while reaching behind the leg, the thigh, the calf, the foot, whatever feels good for you. A couple breaths sinking into this hamstring stretch. Maybe we feel it in other parts of the thigh, the hip. That's all good. Letting the breath flow. And we'll gently open that left leg to the side in the left hand, right hand, maintaining contact through that right hip. And then floating through the center, crossing that center line a little bit towards our right wall, our right shoulder. Then bending that leg, shifting the hips to the left, and it falls towards the right. And floating that leg back to the center. Both knees drawing in one last time. Curling into a little ball. And then extending long into Shavasana. Couple of options here, delicious options. We can take our lovely, comfortable version of Shavasana where the legs fall as wide as we like on the floor as well as the arms. Bringing those shoulder blades under the heart center may also feel good. Doing any last movements to release any tension that's built up. Or you may also choose to stand onto the feet mat wide or so and let the knees fall in. It's another beautiful restorative pose in which to rest. Or bringing the soles of the feet together and the thighs falling open is another nice Shavasana place. Or you can try all three at different stages in your resting. Bringing the attention to the breath, feeling that resonance of the body, all of those movements and positions, still like sound waves moving through our muscles, moving through our bones, and radiating out into the world. Please stay there as long as you like, and I'm going to come to seated and share that last poem with you here at the end of our practice as a final meditation. Please allow gravity to act on the body. Drawing it down into the surface below, towards the earth. This poem is called The Peace of Wild Things by Wendell Berry. When despair grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting for their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. May we too find that sense of peace in the present moment, free from the past and future concerns, and savor every beautiful thing this holiday season. Again, you can rest as long as you'd like in Shavasana, or if you want to, at this time, we can roll softly, moving the fingers and toes, and roll onto one side and walk yourself up to a seat. And rest with me here in an open position with the backs of the hands onto the knees. Taking a last couple of centering breaths. And then drawing the heart center up, the hands to the heart, palms together in Anjali Mudra. Acknowledging yourself for showing up to practice and seeing the light within the self and within others. If you're here in real time, I hope you had a wonderful winter solstice and have a beautiful holiday season. And at any time of year, thank you so much for joining me. It means a lot that you were here. If you did enjoy this practice, I would love to hear about that in the form of liking the video or subscribing to my channel, or let me know in the comments what you thought, or send me a message. I really appreciate that feedback always, and see the beautiful light that you are in the world, and want to do everything I can to support you on your journey. So namaste.